Hello everyone, my name is Manuel Cervantes, host of Emprendiendo con el Güero, a podcast where I talk to local entrepreneurs that have inspired me in one way or another. So I hope that through this podcast, you too can be inspired to start. This podcast will always have a mission, and the first one will be to help a very close friend of mine find something extremely important he's been looking for that could save his life. So stick around until the end so I can tell you all about it. In this episode, I sip on some scotch with Rene Botello, owner of Home Guide Real Estate, as well as Panda Property Management. Rene has been in the industry for over 80 years, and his passion for real estate is hard to miss.
Let's get started. First of all, obviously, thanks for having me, man.
No, thanks for having me, bro.
Obviously here at Home Guide. Get guided, not sold, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly. Big brand that I think I've seen it start and grow.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel part of it.
Yeah.
I met you, back in middle school. We're talking about maybe 15 years ago?
It might be more, bro, because how old are you in middle school? You were
Like 13.
tops 14. So I'm 31, you're 31. Oh yeah, like 16 years.
It was about 15, 16 years.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. We were talking about it the other day, how you never know how maybe God's kind of like already starting to help you build your own brand or network or whatever.
Right.
So I remember like in middle school, you were the cool kid and everybody got along with you. You were funny and you were doing all kinds of things. You were doing football, you were doing soccer, which is where we met in soccer.
Which we sucked at. Well, I sucked at. He was pretty good.
But,
not me.
but we had fun.
Yeah.
And I think that's what really mattered, that we were having fun. I don't know that the other teams were having fun or not. Maybe they were winning, but I don't know if they were having fun.
They were for sure winning against us because I think we didn't win a single game in our soccer career in middle school. A big part of that, I think, is a tribute to, I don't know if you did, but we would buy 2-liter sodas before the games and like donuts, and we would like munch out with Doritos with hot sauce, all the stuff you shouldn't do before soccer, where you're running the whole time. Well, I was bench or defense, so I wasn't running a bunch.
I don't think you were bench, just because I think we barely had 11 players.
That's the reason why. That's the reason why.
Not that you would have been bench and we had more,
I probably would have.
But I know we were having one heck of a good time. I remember walking across the street to the Walmart, packing up some lunch for the bus ride.
Yeah.
And we were having fun, man. I think middle school was a little bit more fun than high school for a lot of different reasons, but it was different stages in our lives. And then we split up in high school. I
could say for sure for me, most of middle school was a lot funner than most of high school for me.
Yeah. I think in high school you might start getting a little bit more responsibilities, or instead of just having fun, now you kind of have to focus a little more on your grades and stuff.
I think for me it was more, I've always been like a heavier dude, maybe chubbier dude. And so I think in middle school you weren't teased as much. In middle school, I think, like how you said, like I never considered myself like the cool kid or whatever. I knew I got along with a lot of people, but I never considered myself like, oh, I'm the popular dude or whatever, right? And I think in high school, I got slapped with reality of real bullying, because in my probably up until maybe middle junior year, I was probably bullied a lot more than I would have ever guessed.
But do you remember it being called like being a bully, or you were getting bullied, or was it just part of?
I felt like it was just part of life. I mean, it sucks. Don't get me wrong, bro. Like, there was times where I was at my lowest low and my confidence dipped a lot. But I think that builds. You could take it, whether you realize it or not. You could take it one of two ways. You could let it build your character, and when it's happening, you don't know it's building your character. But you can either take it and learn from it and grow from it, and decide that you don't want to be that kind of person that bullies people. Or you could take it to how a lot of kids do, where it's very disturbing and puts people into, like, little kids into depression, where kids lash out and do crazy stuff. I mean, I as a kid, I wasn't super wild, but I was a little wild. Not to get too much on that track, because that's not what we're talking about. but like, I think until my senior year in high school, that's when I hadn't lost a lot of weight. I lost like 75 pounds my junior year to my senior year. So girls were noticing me at that point, and people weren't picking on me because they couldn't no more, and I was thin, and I was working out a lot. So senior year was a lot more fun for me.
Yeah. And see, I don't know how your high school went, because we kind of split up right after middle school.
Right.
And then I remember bumping into you at the gym one day at EP Fitness, and I was like, that guy kind of looks like Rene. because you were a complete different version of Rene than I remembered, 4 years earlier.
Right.
You were a lot thinner. I remember you were even a lot like lighter skin for some reason, or I don't know if it was the gym lighting,
It was.
but bro, you looked very different, and I was like, holy smokes, that's Rene. And it was like, when we said hi, it was like going back to middle school again. Like we left, we picked up right where we left.
Yeah.
And I think that relationship has always been something that I appreciate a lot, and that's why I had no doubt reaching out to you when I was gonna sell my first home to then build, and family was growing and stuff. So that was kind of cool that I had somebody that I had already been following on social media that I knew and that I felt comfortable going with. And I wish you would have been there for me buying my first home, man.
I was about to ask you that. How was that? You don't have to name who it was or what. How was that experience? Not to turn into my experience, right?
Who's doing the interview, bro? Are you interviewing me?
I should have.
No, but
how was that experience compared to mine?
It's a very good experience. It's a very good question, actually, because when we started looking for a home, it was when we were planning to get married. So this was back in like 2010, 2011.
Yeah.
So I must have been like 21 years old. So that right off the bat, it's probably not a very good start. And we have all the wedding, upon us and all that good stuff. So then we walk into an open house. We like it, actually right down the street from where we live now. And we tell
That's
the girl,
right.
You know what, we like it. And it was a brand new builder. I don't know how much experience they had. I don't know how much experience she had. Oh yeah, let's write it up. Let's, put the earnest money and all that good stuff. Cool. And then something started to go south. I can't remember exactly what it is, but she started like haunting me, like chasing me, like literally standing outside my job, waiting for me to come out of the office. Bro, it was freaky. And I remember telling her, you know what, that's it. Like something must have happened because we just kind of cut our losses.
Right.
Our earnest money must have been like somewhere like $750 or $1,000, and we ended up taking half back because by that time they had already put some money into drawing the blueprints or whatever. So we had to let that go, and it was a nice house, but we had to let it go thanks to the realtor. And then we kind of let it go, and then we ran into another open house, and my wife liked it. And they're like, all right, well, let's go check it out. We're running out of time. We're about to get married. We need a place to live. And then, so we kind of just rushed and went for a home that we didn't love, but it was going to be in our budget. And then something also turned out to not work out there. So we got married without a place to live.
Yeah.
We got an apartment, and we were there for a little less than a year. So we started looking for a house again because that's when we were expecting our first baby. And then that kind of went a little bit smoother, if I may.
Right.
Because the girl seemed more experienced. She was a little bit older, and it went smooth. It wasn't the house of, like
Your dreams.
my dreams or anything, but it was a lot better. It was brand new, and that went well. But it didn't go the way it has gone with you this past 2 times, right? So it's a huge difference when you already know the person and when you can trust that person has your best interest at mind.
Right.
That's a huge difference, right? I wish I would have been guided, not sold my first 2 times.
TM, be guided, not sold.
Yeah. So definitely a huge difference within the type of selling.
Gotcha.
So that's how that went. Are you done with your interview? Or?
Yeah, I'm good, bro.
Okay, all right, good.
I feel bad now that I'm interviewing you a little bit.
And then, see, that's a cool thing, man. Like we could just have a nice conversation, and you're one to be able to tell the difference between business and pleasure, right?
Right.
So we've been friends forever, but when it comes down to it, like you know how to say, hey, this is what we need to get done. This is what's gonna happen.
Right.
And I know that you've always had our best interests in mind, and I'm sure that's the way it's been. Obviously, to where you started to where you're from now. Like, how has that been for you? Because I know you didn't start as I got my own business, I got my own company. How did it all start for you? Because I know that I was listening to one of your podcasts the other day with one of the dudes that went to middle school with us, right?
Right.
And you guys were talking about how you struggled, and then I remembered seeing posts from your wife, how she was admiring the fact that you were like not sleeping and studying and then going to work and then going to school, and at one time you had like 2 or 3 jobs, but you still wanted to become a realtor, and it was a real struggle.
Yeah, it was, man. I owe a lot of credit to a supportive spouse, my wife, because without that, I don't know if I would have been able to push past a lot of stuff that I went through, and you continue to go through with whether you're real estate or self-employed or opening a business or whatever. It's not always easy. It's in the beginning, it's usually pretty tough unless you get super lucky. But for the most part, people that I know that have came up, on their own path without being handed anything to them necessarily, but it's not always easy, man. And I remember, I guess going back to your question, how it got started was, I remember I was working at Dillard's, and when I first got introduced to the thought of real estate, let me backtrack. Before that, I was doing a lot of I don't know if it was called soul searching for me back then, but I remember seeing a lot of people that we knew graduating from college when I was working at Dillard's, and they're like, "Oh, I got my degree and my diploma. I'm so happy, and I'm on to the next journey of my life." And here I am working at Dillard's, which wasn't a bad job. I had a lot of fun there, and I learned a lot, and I met a lot of good people. But I remember I had switched majors at community college 3 times, and I remember feeling desperate to find what I really, really, really wanted to do. And it was hard to see other people, not because I was hating or anything. I wasn't. I was admiring them, but I also felt I felt sad because I hadn't found my passion. And granted, I was still pretty young, man. Most people don't find their passion that young. It takes a lot of maturing and growing up to find your passion that young. So I've been blessed enough to find it at a young age, because I've been doing this going on 8 years, almost 9 in July. But I remember working at Dillard's, and there's a guy that owns a brokerage here in El Paso, was one of my clients at Dillard's. And he would always be like, "Man," that saying, there's a saying, I'll probably mess this up, but it's kind of real recognizes real, or you recognize something in somebody else that
takes one to know one.
Takes one to know one, kind of in a good way, right? And there was an owner of a real estate company. He's a broker, and he would tell me, "Man, bro, you would do really good at real estate. You should really look into it." And I was always like, "Oh yeah, for sure, man. What do you want to buy today?"
You saw that sales guy in you.
Yeah, you know what? And really, real estate's not necessarily a whole bunch of sales, man. It's really education and guidance. Home guide real estate, but it really is, man. I truly believe that, and it sounds cheesy, but I guess what he saw in me was that I built rapport with somebody, and that I can carry a conversation with somebody that was a complete stranger. Because the first day he went in to buy stuff, me and him hit it off pretty easy, and which I can do for the most part with most people, right? Because I genuinely try to find what they're looking for, and I've always took pride into what I do wherever I worked, right? I worked at Suzaki for a while. That's a bar sushi place used to exist here in El Paso. It doesn't no more. But even as a server, I took pride in serving people and making them have good experience.
You were even at a gym at one point, weren't you?
I used to work at the UFC gym. When I first started real estate, I had been in the UFC gym right at the beginning of my real estate career. But I found real estate through that guy Dillard's, owner of a company. I won't say his name because I don't know if that's illegal or if you should say names or not. But so I won't say his name. But great guy. So one day, after several times of seeing and interacting with me, he said, I'm helping him out, and he said, "Hey man, what time you get off work today?" And I think I said 3 p.m. or whatever. I worked early till 3 p.m. What's in this water? But I worked early till
it's
about
purified water.
Oh, okay. It's carbonated.
Mm-hmm.
I think I said 3 p.m. and he said, "Okay, you have some time after work?" And I'm thinking, because we're friends at that point, so I'm thinking, oh, maybe he wants to grab a beer. Cool guy, I'll grab a beer with him, whatever, no big deal. And I said, yeah, you have some time. Okay, cool, I'll be back at 3. Comes back at 3. I'm about to clock out. I said, "Hey man, where you parked?" Told him where I'm parked.
You guys had a date.
It almost felt like it, bro. But I had already met his wife and kids, so I knew that it wasn't like that. So
yet, right?
Yeah, yet. Unless he hit it really well. No, but it wasn't a date. And so he said, "Okay, cool, I'll meet you where your car's parked." All right, cool, clock out. And then he said, "Follow me." So I follow him. He drove me to the real estate academy here in El Paso.
I didn't even know there was such a thing.
Yeah, it's on Boeing. Shout out, hey, I better get royalties for this. All right. It's on Boeing. And we get off the car, and I knew at that point that we weren't having a drink. And I saw it at Real Estate Academy. So I said, okay, he got me here. So we go inside. Hey, this is Rene. He's a young dude. He would be really good at this. He needs to sign up for his first course. hey, sign up for your first course, Rene.
On the spot.
I didn't have a whole bunch of money. And I think maybe in our bank account we had, I want to say $300-400 or whatever. And I've never been one to use credit a lot. And because I didn't have good credit back then. So he said, sign up to your first course. And out of ego and pride, I did. So, oh yeah, I have money. I could sign up. Signed up.
He should have paid for it.
Yeah.
He took you there.
You know, honestly, so a note on that, whenever you say that whenever you work for a company as an agent, they call it your sponsoring broker. So he said, I'll be your sponsoring broker once you get licensed. So in my head, I thought sponsoring broker meant he was going to pay.
Sponsor the courses.
At some point. But that's not what it means. That's not what it means, guys, by the way. So no one's going to pay for your courses. Unless they're like your dad or something, right?
Yeah, appreciate the fact that you're getting guided all through this.
Guided even through your license, right? Yeah. And so, pay for your course. I paid out of ego and pride. You look good, bro. Don't worry. And so I paid. And so I'm going to community college. I'm working at Dillard's, working full time at Dillard's. I had four courses at community college in the semester, which is full time. And I paid for this night course in Real Estate Academy. And so I'm like, well, I paid for it. I might as well. I better go. I paid for it. Paid for the course. So I said, all right, I'm going to go. First day, instantly fell in love with it. I knew what I was searching for was that. Going back to finding my passion, finding what I think I'm going to enjoy, I knew it was that.
See, but I guess you at least have that memory of you actively looking for that passion. Which again, like you said, most younger dudes or girls or whatever don't know to look for it.
Yeah.
And maybe just expect it to happen, like love will show up on my doorstep or whatever. But you remember actually looking for it.
I did because I grew up seeing my parents work a lot and hate their jobs.
Wow.
And I always thought as a young guy growing up.
You think your parents are going to be watching or not?
Maybe one day. Shout out to my parents. But I knew they hated what they did. And I told myself, because I would see how exhausted they were or, kind of the complaining or whatever, but I knew growing up that I didn't want to hate what I did because I wanted to enjoy the most I can out of life because cliche, but you never know like when your time comes, and most people work till they're 65, right? Till they get retirement. Oh, I'm gonna enjoy when I'm 65. But at 65, unless you're super duper like a health freak, like what can you really enjoy at that point after that? So I always knew that I wanted to find something that I really, really enjoyed doing, and I wasn't gonna stop looking for it until I found that. But I'm also somebody that's sometimes a little impatient, and so I want to find it fast. So that me wanting to find it fast builds a little bit of anxiety and builds sadness in me. So once I went to that first real estate class, I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. This is what I feel like I'm gonna be passionate about. And I remember going home that day and telling my wife, I said, this is it. I even teared up. And even like right now, like I remember that memory where I said, this is what I want to do. This is it. And my wife knew I was searching for something.
Do you remember thinking you had found it back then and something else before coming to real estate? Do you remember saying like, oh, I think this is it. I love selling shoes?
Nope.
No.
Because I sold shoes. Nope. I knew that's not what I wanted to do.
The gym? That would be pretty exciting.
No. I worked at gyms and I didn't enjoy it. And I used to love working out a lot. And I'm finding that passion again, which is awesome. But I didn't never feel the same way I felt about how I felt that first day in real estate class. And by the way, you ever take a real estate course, it's not like the funnest of topics in class. So it's not like you're like, ooh, I love all this nerdy real estate information. I just knew that's what I wanted to do, man.
It didn't have anything to do with the presenter, the guy giving the class, the girl giving the class?
No, not the first class I took. Because it wasn't the same person that I ended up joining their company, because I really enjoyed how they taught. The person I ended up joining their company, I really enjoyed how they taught, and that's when I followed them once I got my license to where their company was. Because I didn't go with the person that originally pushed me to jump in, because it really wasn't a fit for me. I told him thank you. I actually told him thank you and showed up to his office and I shook his hand and I said, hey man, I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for pushing me this way, but
since you didn't sponsor me, I'm going
because you didn't
else.
pay for my classes.
Exactly, yeah.
And now we're here.
Karma.
But I'm right. I shook his hand and I said, hey man, thank you so much for pushing me into this. I'm super grateful, and I really don't know if he ever really truly sat back and thought or realized how grateful I truly was. Because this isn't the first time I bring the story up to people. Like I brought this story up in two different podcasts actually. But I truly am grateful.
Yeah, well, if this ever gets to you, reach out to him. Like,
truly grateful. And great guy. He still owns a company now to this day, and their company does really well. But yeah, man, that's how I found real estate, and here we are, almost 9 years later, and still doing it, and still loving it.
Which is crazy to me, man, because I never put the time in to actually search for my passion or my calling or whatever. And a couple of times I thought I had found it. More than a couple probably. And didn't realize that it wasn't it. Like I do now.
Let me backtrack, actually. Now that you're saying that, I did think that I had another passion before real estate.
When you worked at Hooters?
No. I never worked at Hooters, by the way. I worked at KFC before. I worked at Whataburger, worked at Suzaki, never worked at Hooters. But only a few people know this stuff, right? So you're getting the exclusive stuff right here. Not that I'm important or anything, but you're getting the exclusives. I want to be a DJ. I bought a turntable, a Newmark turntable set.
Did you have a DJ name?
Yeah.
What was it? Please.
DJ All Day Rene.
DJ All Day Rene.
I made a mix like that. DJ All Day Rene.
We're now in the mix.
But you know what?
DJ Rene.
And I really enjoyed it. I didn't do it a whole bunch. I didn't practice a whole bunch, but I really, really enjoyed it. But real estate it's a way different level.
You could tell the difference of passion or love for the art.
Yes.
Now.
Yeah.
Back then you couldn't.
Yeah. And to this day, man, I have the turntables in my closet, in my room. They're old as crap.
You should set them up.
Yeah, I should. Actually, I don't know if they work still, but I have them there. And man, I used to sit there for hours, not knowing what I was doing, but just trying to figure it out and just like having a great time. So I backtracked. That's the only other passion I thought. 20, right before I found real estate, actually, because I think I was 20 when I bought them bought my turntables, and I think I used it for like a year, and I made a couple mixes on Spotify. Not Spotify, it was SoundCloud.
What was Michelle say?
She's a good sport. She'd be like, "Oh yeah, sweetie, yeah, sounds great."
Should have turned it on again.
Yeah. I would use the repeat buttons, like repeating the same line. Yeah. I'd use the clap noises. But yeah, so backtracking, that was the first time, but then I found real estate.
But I think that's part of the experience, man. That was something cool that you got to take the step to go for it, right? Which is part of being an entrepreneur, or in the process of me actually finding the name for the podcast, I wanted to go aim towards the entrepreneur world. And when I translated, because this is originally supposed to be a Spanish podcast, but I'm making an exception for DJ Rene.
All Day Rene.
All Day Rene.
Yeah.
I found out that being an entrepreneur is not just necessarily like a business owner or business starter, but somebody with initiative. Most of the time, it'll get you to start a business, but having an initiative helps out in a whole lot of different things. It helps you take the first leap to maybe start working out, to start being a DJ, to then end up in real estate.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the most important things that I want people to get out of this podcast. How important it is for you to take that leap of faith, that first step.
Right.
Obviously, after a little bit of research, right? Especially as you get older, you got to be a little bit more careful with your decisions. But that's one of the most important things that I want to get out of, and that I hope some people can get out of this podcast as well. Take the initiative.
Yeah.
Whether it's that you want to get into beehives, that you want to get into selling cars, flipping houses, or just being the best salesperson at a call center.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that you want to do, that you're not going to see it as a sacrifice of a job and stuff like that, take it, do it. Maybe it's not going to make you money at the beginning, but that's where the research comes into play, and the time that it's going to take to actually find it. But the most important part of finding it is actually looking for it.
Yes. And also, I don't know if it's a saying or not, but I have a phrase that I've always, not always, but that I've embedded in me, because being an entrepreneur or a business owner or whatever, just anybody that's creative, or just anybody period, a lot of people are waiting for permission to do something that they want to do. Because we're almost conditioned as a society to go by a certain way of living. Get your degree and you have to do this. Go to school and do this. And then this is the cause and effect of this. Well, a lot of times being an entrepreneur, sometimes there's no path. Or sometimes you don't know somebody that's made a path for what your life mission is, or what your dream is, or what your goal is. So like, the agents here, sometimes you see that people ask for permission for a lot of things. And I've always said, like, stop waiting for people to give you permission to act on your goals and your desires or your dreams, because no one's going to care about it as much as you do. Yeah. And it's not nobody's job to care about it as much as you. It's not their dream, man. They're not going to understand or realize your dream the way you realize your dream. So how could you wait around for somebody to give you permission or a path to follow your dream? And that's important, because that's why most people don't act on what they want to do, because they're waiting for somebody to tell them it's okay to do it. Yeah. And most people won't. You're gonna have a very few, like, legit real supporters in your life. Your spouse should be one of them, right? Your spouse should be one of them. If they're not, you need to really see if that's a good spouse or not, right? Mm-hmm. But your spouse should be one of them. They have to be one of them, because they're a big part of your life and you make decisions together, right? Especially if you're married. But again, man, a lot of people won't follow their dreams because they're waiting for an invitation almost. And no one's going to give you that invitation.
You're waiting for approval.
And no one's going to give it to you.
Yeah.
And if you tell your dreams to most people will try to shoot it down because they didn't follow their dreams, so there's resentment. Mm-hmm. Even though they're not saying it out loud, there's some sort of resentment. So whenever I get the opportunity, when I talk to somebody that feels like, oh, I want to do this, I'm like, just do it then. It's never going to be a perfect time. You're never going to have the perfect plan. Even if it's a really good plan, it's never going to be perfect. Like, just start doing it. Start. Initiative, just start.
And you bring a very good point where you mentioned right now that there's probably no path to what you want to do or start. And you don't know that somebody maybe already made that path for you.
Right.
But the point is that if the path is not there, you make your own path. Like, that's part of the initiative. That's part of being the entrepreneur, and that the creativity of a business owner or whatever you might call it, right? Make your own path, and that's where most of us struggle. I know that's where I struggle, because like I said, you remembered looking for that passion before you found. I don't remember that. I thought someday it was just gonna come and hit me. Someday I was just gonna find the job that I was gonna love and be all about. But it didn't happen like that, because I wasn't looking for it, but I never realized it. And you at a young age, you were already looking, like actively looking.
Yeah. And I think it goes back again, credit to my parents, even though, they didn't enjoy. Actually, my dad just retired this year from truck driving a couple months ago. Not this year, a couple months ago in 2020. He finally retired as a truck driver, and that was 35 years, or I think 35 or maybe more, actually, because I know he had been truck driving before I was even born.
And DJ Rene never thought about truck driving?
No, hell no. No, sir.
There's money there.
I went on trips with my dad when I was younger in the summer. And I loved it because I got to spend time with my dad, and my dad's always been my hero, right? And so I loved it, bro. Even though I was just sitting there or sleeping in the back of the cab, or just watching TV in the cab, or just sitting next to my dad, just talking to him, like broing out, because I grew up with 4 sisters and a mom, so I didn't really get to bro out with nobody unless my dad was home, but it was a few days because he was over the road all the time. But I remember him telling me, like, my dad's a very wise man. He didn't go to school a whole bunch, but he's a very wise man. A lot of life experiences. And he said, don't be like me, be better.
Is your dad, without going too much off topic, is your dad local?
He was over the road.
No, what I mean by local is like him, where does he come from? Where's his family from?
So he was born here in El Paso, but a lot of his family was in Mexico. We have a lot of his family in Mexico. My mom was born here. A lot of my mom's side of the family's here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, in El Paso. Yeah,
I think that has a lot to do with the go-getter personality. Our locals, our El Pasoans, most of us anyway, are go-getters. Like, you're gonna do it. Like, you wanna go get it. But we're also very insecure about ourselves. And I might be speaking for everyone, but I think that's where we kind of limit ourselves to, it's okay, just get your nice paying 9-to-5 job and you'll be all right.
Right.
Which I strongly believe comes from school, from education, man.
Well, it's conditioning. You're conditioned as a young age to do a certain thing a certain way. So it's hard for you to envision anything else besides what you're being conditioned as a kid to do. Clock in, as at school, you're clocking in from 7:30, 8:30 in the morning until a certain time, do your homework, time to go to sleep, time to wake up. Okay, now you get to enjoy 2 days out of the weekend.
And I think you're being programmed to memorize stuff.
Yeah.
Not to be creative enough to actually figure it out.
Well, why
you might have to figure out that in the back of the book, all the answers are there.
Yeah.
But not figure out why it is that you came to that answer. Well, that's horrible.
And why don't they teach financial literacy in school yet? Which is super important. Which would benefit governments also, but why don't they teach that? It's conditioned not to get like super theorist or anything, because I can go all day about that. But
I was gonna say, then you start getting into the student loan debt, and
why don't they teach you about financial literacy? Why don't they teach you about your credit?
Exactly. Did you come out of school knowing how to perfect your credit score, or how to do your taxes?
My credit sucked off and on throughout my life. Opening a business, my credit took a little bit of a hit. You don't learn these things until you have to, I guess, which shouldn't be the case. You should learn them beforehand. You should learn them beforehand.
And that's another thing that I've always also admired about you, that you're not scared to say the truth, whether it's good or bad. Like, you're just honest.
What?
A lot of business owners would have been embarrassed to say, yeah, my credit took a couple hits throughout my career.
Yeah.
And it happens. That's the reality of stuff.
It does happen. It does happen, man. And anytime I do a podcast or talk to people, I try to be like as honest as possible with it, because the one thing that we see on social media a lot is that everybody portrays this perfect image for the most part, right? This perfect image, or this happy, super happy. There's never sadness or struggle life, which makes other people feel like shit. And in itself, it causes depression, or it causes people to not want to follow something or do something or try for anything, right? It's hard, man. It's hard. Me and my wife, my family have, my kids maybe not so much, because they're young and we don't let them see these things. When they're older, we'll tell them, but it's not always easy, man. And most of the time it's not easy, but it's worth it. Yeah. I don't know if I'm jumping out of place or anything, but when I was my early years of real estate, I'd have a closing for 9 months, bro.
And that means zero income for 9 months.
And it's actually negative income, because you spend a lot. We don't get paid hourly, right? It's all commission based. And we don't get paid until you close in your house, right? So you're spending money driving, gas, oil changes. If you have a flat tire, you have to fix that. Marketing, a lot of money marketing if you want to make it, right? You have to pay what's called dues to use the MLS, to open houses on the lockbox. I mean, you're actually negative. And so I didn't get closing for 9 months, and I started young, so nobody my age was buying homes. And so they're struggling it. Even after my first 2 years, bro, I tried a different thing in real estate, and I sat with a builder that in an area that was very slow. And financially, we took a big hit, man. I remember, and this is being real. It's not just have a sob story or anything. This is just this is real information. And this is for people to think that it's not always easy, but push through it, right? I remember 2016, I was sitting a builder, and all I was sitting was open houses in a very slow area where no one was really buying. And so financially, I took a hit, but I had committed to that builder that I was going to sit there almost 7 days a week, almost all day, not seeing anybody. And maybe I could have done different tasks, but I didn't know how to at the time. Financially took a hit, bro. I remember our lights being cut off because we didn't pay the bill. We would stay at my mother-in-law's house. Our water being turned off. We'd go take showers at my mother-in-law's house. We don't have food. My mother-in-law would come cook for us. My mother-in-law, man, we not that we owe her, but we're very thankful to her because, and not just her, but my family too, where people have stepped in and helped us along the way. But no one wants to talk about things like this.
Yeah.
But it's real. These things can happen. Hopefully it doesn't. The reason why I wanted to open my own company was to help newer agents or agents avoid falling into those times where financially you're not making it because you're not having the proper education and guidance.
Yeah, and it definitely helps you appreciate what you have now a lot more because you know how hard it was.
Yeah.
And you know more than anybody, you know the struggle of what it took to, started from the bottom, now you're here, right? Like it's the struggle is real, literally.
Well, remember my realtor, the realtor Rene logo, the little R with the car?
Yeah.
Well, the reason why it's a little R with a car for real estate is not because I sold cars, but because early in my real estate career, I was like, well, how do I how do I get more attention? And I drive a lot, so let me put these big Sesame Street looking R's on mine and my wife's car. And so it was just big R's on both sides of our cars. And my wife, poor girl, she didn't have to do it, but I kind of just did it without her knowing and just slapped them on there. R's, said realtor. And I would drive around, people would be like, oh, people would start recognizing it because you want to create relevancy. Any business or self-employed person, you want to create some sort of relevancy for yourself, right? You need to capture some kind of attention. And so people started knowing me with the guy with the R in his car. So that's why my logo was an R with a car around it. Yeah. That's why I did that.
And see, that's crazy that you mentioned it, because a lot of people wouldn't even have taken it that far to get creative enough to say, how do I put myself out there? Without having to pay like a marketing company or something. I'm sure you could have placed ads all over town and billboards.
Which I had no money for.
Exactly. So you figuring it out goes back to your initiative of an entrepreneur. Right? That initiative, I think it's key to anybody that's looking to start anything. Because it doesn't have to be a business. It could be something like this, something like a podcast.
Right.
It could be like some project to where you want to help out the community.
Right.
You just got to have that initiative, and it's going to eventually start. The ball's going to get rolling, and then that's it. Once it starts rolling, like, there's no going back.
Well, there is going back if you take your foot off the gas. Yeah. Once you get super comfortable.
Consistency?
Once you get super comfortable, the ball stops rolling, and then you start going backwards. Yes.
Should we
Yes.
make a little toast?
Thank you, sir. Mix my water up real quick, guys.
But I don't know if we should cut it or actually ask.
You can cut that part.
Glenlivet for a sponsorship.
Hey, Glenlivet, if you're watching this, we're giving you free advertisement. I don't know how many people are going to watch this, but hey.
Wow.
There might be 2 or 3, 4, 5, 10, 30, 1,000 people, 2,000 people that watch it, but sad. We're taking the risk to go ahead and help you guys brand.
That is sad. So you don't know how many people are going to watch this.
We don't know.
We don't know. I don't know.
Hopefully, I pray that it's super successful, man.
I'll tell you what. I know that at least 2 people are going to watch it. Me and you.
Yeah, and our wives, 4. Because I'll make them watch.
3.5.
I'll make my wife watch.
Okay, there you go. So 4, Nabil, you better watch this too.
Yeah, you better, Nabil.
But going back to the reality of stuff, man, because a lot of people don't want to talk about it, right? We've all have had struggles in the past, but obviously you've overcame them, right? Where did you find that strength to say, okay, you know what, this company didn't work out, but now I'm moving over, right? Because you've been doing this for 8-9 years, like you mentioned earlier, and this is obviously not your first job. You had other realtor jobs.
Right.
Some went well, some didn't, but you had to find that strength in you. Where does Rene, DJ Rene, get his strength from?
I think it goes back to just constantly like self-developing within yourself and finding who you are, because you're gonna evolve as a person, bro. Like when I first started real estate, I never thought I was gonna open my own real estate company. For me, it was just, I'm gonna be a realtor. I'm gonna be a good realtor, and I'm gonna help people for reals. And I'm not gonna cheat people, because I've heard horror stories about that stuff, right? I'm gonna really focus on them and really help them out and look for their best needs. So that was my goal starting off. And then I said, you know what? I wanna level up. I wanna do a little bit more. I wanna represent a builder, which I've done with 2 different builders, right? I wanna do the best job I can. Cool. After that, it was, you know what? I wanna take a little step farther. I wanna help agents that didn't get education in the beginning, because I didn't when I first started. I didn't get a whole bunch of education. I had to kind of learn a lot of self-taught things and methods.
And that's where I'm going. Like, give me some of the insights. Like, where were you getting that education from? Where were you, like, I don't know, YouTube, podcast, going to retreats, or like, where were you getting your knowledge from?
I don't think I really got into podcasts up until maybe 3 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. I kind of started with like Gary Vee, kind of spoke to me, like how he projects himself, which I really relate to a lot. Yeah. But I one of the first books that I read after high school that I just read because I wanted to, not somebody forced me, was Rich Dad Poor Dad. So it's kind of how I started, like the self-help. Yeah, bro. It was just like, what? You don't have to be poor?
You don't have to work 9 to 5 every day.
You don't have to work 9 to 5, and that was like that was the first book after high school that wasn't forced for me to read. I just read it one day because I was bored, and that just opened up my mindset where I was like, whoa, I want more of this.
Yeah.
You know, and I just wanted more and more. So I actually have the Audible app now, and I have a big library from 5, 6, 7 years back, and I really enjoy the self reflection or the self-help books, or you know, like self-motivation, building, the mindset, development, psychology. I really enjoy diving into that, like when I'm driving, because I drive a lot. I love to throw on a good Audible book. Sometimes some get very repetitive, and then the book gets repetitive and it starts saying the same thing, but that's kind of where it grows from. But going back from levels of real estate was representing builders, and then operating a real estate company, and then doing coaching for real estate agents. And while I'm doing that, I'm also getting coached by top professionals in the industry. Like I don't know if you know any real estate professional gurus, but Tom Ferry's organization is one of the big ones that I follow a lot. And then it just got to a point, kind of skipping through years, but it got to a point where I was operating this big real estate company, and it got to a point where it wasn't me operating anymore. It was more I was getting directed to do certain things that really I didn't enjoy, and for a while I didn't enjoy them. Just kind of took initiative.
Which is crazy how you can enjoy something that is bringing you, that you don't enjoy something that's bringing you a lot of money. Because I remember you were doing very well when you were with that company.
It was a very nice salary that I was making, or a paycheck that I was making, but I wasn't happy. I realized after a couple of years of doing that I was going home and I was turning into a zombie, because whether I realized it or not, I wasn't enjoying it. And I was back to square one when I was going to community college, where I was like, I'm not passionate about this.
Yeah, you were back to a 9-to-5 job.
And I was back to a 9-to-5 job.
Without a 9-to-5 schedule.
Without a 9-to-5 schedule, working more actually. But I didn't enjoy it, man. And it took a lot of reflection, self-reflection, and some books, and diving deep into who I wanted to go forward and be, to understand that I probably won't be happy working under anybody unless I have my own company, not working under anybody, and going forward with the mission that I believed in.
Because the work never stops, and I think that's one of the things that I had kind of confused in my head. Yeah, you can start your own stuff, your own business, your own company, whatever, but you still got to put in the work.
Yeah.
And in my head, I was thinking, no, you don't. You just buy a franchise and it runs on its own.
No, man.
You just cash in.
Nope.
And it's not going to work out like that. And even if it does, let's say, hypothetically speaking, it does. It runs on its own because you hire a manager as well. And you go just check in once a week. How did you get the money? Because you worked your ass off for that money.
Yeah.
So the work can't stop. I think the moment you stop working, it's going to go back to that 9-to-5 job.
Well, in the moment that you stop enjoying what you're doing, you truly stop living. Not like you're dead, right? But you stop living.
Like you start becoming a zombie?
Like a zombie. But really you do, man. I don't know if there's a book by Napoleon Hill, or it's a recording. Napoleon Hill is one of the guys that I really enjoy reading his stuff or listening to his stuff. It's called Interview with the Devil. Oof. And there's a line in there that he talks about, and he says, most people drift through life and they find themselves becoming empty and depressed. And that's where most people are. And I'm not speaking for anybody in particular, but that's where most people are in life. And if you don't catch that about yourself, you're going to drift until you die. When you truly die.
Right, but okay, well, that's easy to say, but how do you find out that that's you being drifted?
Self-reflection. You have to have one of my biggest strengths, bro. And I'm not saying I have a bunch of strengths. I know what my strengths are and I know what my weak points are.
Like your chest or your triceps
my chest.
Your chesticles?
My chesticles. But one of the things that I do a really good job with myself is that I recognize my own moods. And maybe I'll snap out of my moods fast or a certain time, but I recognize my own moods and I take the action to figure out why I feel the way I feel and how to get out of it if it's a bad if it's a bad way that I'm feeling. If it's a good way, I do more of that. And I know what makes me happy. And there's times where I don't realize super quick that this doesn't make me happy. Certain things.
And you find yourself getting home with that negative attitude? Or you're able to leave it at work?
I'm able to not be upset or like crazy emotional, but there was a time when I was operating this other company where I was going home and I would just veg out. I would just sit down and I didn't want to talk. And there's times where I'll do that still to this day, but then I have to check myself. And I have to realize, hey, there's something that's going on here in your life that maybe you're not enjoying, or maybe something's putting you in a weird state of mind, stuff that I'm not doing, like my routine, my daily routine, you know, if I'm not working out, or if I'm not reading books, or if I'm not, and I think we spoke about this the other day, if I'm not diving into the Bible a little bit and following my faith, I get put in moods, man, where just, I'm not me and I'm not joyous.
Yeah.
And I check myself and I start doing the things that make me joyous. So you have to recognize patterns about yourself. I think that's big, man. Most people don't recognize patterns about themselves. You need to recognize patterns about yourself and check yourself, because it's nobody else's job to check you.
Right. But that's not something you grew up with. That's something that you learned over time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's another breakdown that I had, that I thought like, well, this is who I've always been. This is who I'll always be.
Right.
And now I know that it's not true.
It's not.
I know for a fact that it's not true. And a lot of things you do bring from your childhood. Like if you had some type of initiative right now, you probably had some as a kid as well.
Well, I remember, right? we didn't grow up with money. I'm not saying we were like the brokest people in the world, but we were pretty like middle class, maybe a little bit lower than middle class. I remember, my parents were paying the bills, but that was what it was. We're paying the bills, and that's once in a while we'll enjoy something. I think we went on, I want to say like one actual like vacation. There was a SeaWorld, which made me get a phobia about bees, by the way. But
there's a bee show at SeaWorld? Or?
No, there's just bees everywhere until they freak me out. Anybody knows me.
I thought there was like bees jumping in the water.
No, man, they just followed me everywhere.
Because you're so sweet.
Yeah, like honey. But I remember, growing up and I remember growing up and realizing like my parents don't have money for this. And I remember I was like, well, how do I find the money? How do I create the money?
That's what I was talking about, yeah.
And so I remember in elementary school, I think I had birthday money one year, and I was like, well, how do I flip this? And then in my head, as a kid, I wasn't like, how do I flip this money? But in my head, I was like,
what would Gary Vee do with his money?
Yeah, like baseball cards, right? Gary Vee.
Yeah.
But in my head, I was like, how can I turn this into more money as a kid? How do I turn this into more money, right? And so I bought a necklace bead bracelet set.
Okay.
And I made bracelets and necklaces. I made one for myself, and some kids at school were like, oh, that's cool. And I would show it off. But really what I was doing, and I didn't realize this as a kid, I was marketing and pitching without them realizing that I was pitching to them. And so they were like, oh, where'd you get it? And I'm like, oh, I make them. So I think I turned that little $10, $15 box into like $30. And I would sell for like $3 or something with kids' lunch money. They'd buy them.
Yeah.
And so I would do that. And I did that a couple times.
How old were you?
I want to say maybe second, third grade. And then I remember getting into middle school. The cool thing back then, I don't know if it was for you also, but I'm sure it was middle school. You want to go to the movies back then, right? I don't know if kids can relate to that now, but back then.
It's just that I was watching the movies in Spanish and you were watching them in English.
Yeah, you were watching novelas. Yeah. And
those were free.
Yeah, those were free. Hey, Dragon Ball Z was like the first cartoon that I watched when I was younger, because it was in Spanish, because we didn't have cable, by the way. Yeah. And it was in Spanish. I don't know what the heck was going on, but I was just like, oh, cool, they're fighting. But I never got into it because I don't know what the hell they were saying. Yeah. But I remember.
You need to get into Spanish.
You know what? I do. I won't disagree with that. Yeah. But I remember in middle school, the cool thing, or the thing that we wanted to do as kids in middle school, was to go to movies with their friends. And my parents didn't have money for me to go to movies every weekend like my other friends did. Because my other friends were pretty, their parents were pretty decent, well off, or a little bit more than us.
It's just sad, man. I hate having to go through that, to compare yourself to your friends.
But it's the reality, and it's not me saying a sob story or anything, man, but I realized that my parents didn't have the means to do it, and I didn't sit there and fucking complain and be like, I'm so sad. I was like, okay, what do I do? And my dad always instilled me, you better work if you want something. And so I appreciate my dad a lot for that, because he was like, he taught me how to cut grass. And so he said, hey man, you want to go to the movies? You better go cut some grass. Yeah. And so I would cut grass around the neighborhood just to go to the movies.
Not for your dad, for the neighbors.
I would cut grass for my dad for free because he made me, because it was
because he was letting you borrow the machine.
That, but it was also discipline. Just because we feed you doesn't mean you don't do anything around the house. Like, you need to do stuff.
Nice.
Like you have a part.
I like it.
You have a part in this family. There's a role in this family, and this is what you got to do. And so I would cut grass at a young age for the house.
Is DJ Rene doing that right now?
No, he's not. No.
You failed.
You failed. but I remember growing up doing these things, because part of that also, not because, but part of that also has made me a resourceful person.
Mm-hmm. I can see that.
Very resourceful. And then also growing up, being the chubby kid or the fat kid and getting picked on and stuff, also made me a person that learns how to build character, and I learned how to get along with people, because I never wanted to be that person that treated other people like crap. Because I've always cared, because I've been there and I know how it feels. I know how it feels to be low like that.
I bet you have a bunch of good comebacks.
Yeah, I do. I do it in high school, man. That was the only thing I could do. I'd be like, oh, you're fat. And I'd be like, oh, good one, bro. Well, like, why is your face like that? But I'd probably practice at night. Like, all right, if Billy says this tomorrow, what am I going to say? Because it was expected for me already, where I would be like, the next day, I know someone's going to come out with a fat joke.
And for good or for bad, man, those memories stay stuck, like, big time. And I don't honestly remember, like, lacking stuff growing up ever. Thanks to my parents, and because we were very blessed as well. Not that we were rich or anything, but I don't.
Get out of here, bro! I remember coming to your house in middle school. You lived off of Motwood, passing Zaragoza, where the sun.
Yeah, Sunridge.
Bro, I loved your house, man. That was like a mansion to me, bro.
And it wasn't, but I don't remember.
But it was a nice house, man.
But now that I've gotten the chance to talk to my parents, yeah, there were struggles.
Yeah.
They were just kind enough to not share them, right?
Right.
Which is kind of cool.
Which is really good, bro, because you shouldn't burden your kids. You should teach them and teach them to be responsible and be respectful, but you shouldn't burden your kids on, because you chose that path as an adult.
But before I forget this, I remember a lot in middle school. You remember Christelle?
Yes.
She had a cell phone, bro. We were in middle school. We were probably like 13,
Gonzalez?
14. I don't know.
I sold her house. By the way, I sold your house, Christelle, yeah.
You still have that cell phone?
Yeah, she probably does.
Bro, we would play Snake on it, and she even had that little aftermarket antenna that would light up when her mom would call.
Oh, snap.
And that to me was like super cool, but I don't remember hating her for it or having like oh, shit, I wish I was. Yeah, no, I don't remember that.
Admiration.
Yeah, it was like, that was cool, but that was it. I didn't go home and tell my parents, oh, why don't I have a cell phone? No, that was cool with me.
Yeah, because your parents will slap you and be like, work for it.
Right, or they're like, yeah, you're too young.
Yeah.
Right, and now our 7-year-olds are walking around with
Well, speaking of cell phones, I didn't get my first cell phone until I was almost 17. But I had to work, and I was in football in high school, so it would take up all your week, right, and some of your weekends. So I got a job at KFC just to be able to buy a cell phone for myself, and to be able to pay my cell phone bill under my sister's line. She's like, hey, well, if you want a cell phone, like, I'll put you on my plan, but you're paying it.
Your sister's older?
I have 2 older sisters and 2 younger.
Huh. Okay.
The one you know is older also.
Okay.
Yeah. But I remember. And that's until I was almost 17. I didn't have a cell phone until I was able to work to be able to use a cell phone. Mm-hmm. But cell phones, like, I don't remember if she had a cell phone, bro. But my memory kind of sucks sometimes, so.
Yeah, all those drugs you did at middle school.
No, I never did drugs.
I'm just kidding.
I couldn't afford them. I couldn't afford them.
Good. See, you do have good comebacks.
Yeah, you like that? You like that?
Yeah. No, but it is kind of sad that we still have those bad memories, but it's also very good that you learned since you were little and you still have those memories. I need to cut grass, that'll turn into money. Now I can go to the movies, right? Yeah. And if you don't transfer that to your kids, are you going to be proud of that? Probably not. No. But I understand you 100% to where right now you just want to make sure your kids have everything because maybe you couldn't, right? Is that a good or a bad thing?
it's good if you don't realize. It's bad if you don't realize it, because then they can become very spoiled. And that's what happens a lot of time when it's like new money into a family where you want to give your kids everything. And my kids, you know, they have a good amount. Like, they have what they need. Like, they're not, like, all of them have little tablets and stuff, and they're all fine. But one of the things that I need to, and me and my wife need to instill in them, is that you have to work for stuff too. Like, you don't just get things just to get things in life.
So what age do they start working around the house?
So my oldest is gonna be 9 or 10.
Michelle.
My oldest will be 10 this year. And so they already start working around the house. They have their little cleaning assignments. Nothing crazy intensive, but they have little cleaning assignments. So they've already started to they hate it, but too bad. Too bad. Mom and dad get tired too, and we work all day, so it's not.
But that's definitely going to build them up to, I don't know, 20 years from now. And remember, my dad told me that I had to do this in order to get that, right? Like I was telling you earlier, you never know when you start building your brand or your network. Like I feel you did in middle school with all your friends. Like you had with your dad, to where he was pushing you to work for your money, where you had your initiative of turning money into more money, right? Those little things definitely build you up to what you will become,
right?
Whatever that's gonna turn out to be, because you're not gonna find your passion maybe till later down the road. But it is up to a certain point your responsibility as a dad to be planting those seeds, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I think a lot of us could fail, or a lot of us that don't have that mentality of wanting more. That's where that failure comes from, or in my opinion, failure. Because maybe there's nothing wrong with being a badass employee.
Right.
In my opinion, that's
if you enjoy it.
But
if
it
you
could come back
it,
from your parents.
Because I know a lot of people that, it could come back from parents, but I know a lot of people that enjoy being an employee, and that's fine. If that's truly what you're happy about and that's your passion, then let it be your passion and do a damn good job.
But could you be passionate about being an employee?
I can't. But there's people that are. Because I've employed people like that, and they really love it, man.
So if your kid, when they turn 30, they're still living at home and they're still working for a call center, you're cool with it as long as they're a manager?
No. I mean, if they loved it and they shine, like, cool, man. But you're not gonna live at home till you're 30.
Why not?
Because that's not gonna happen in my house.
My kids have told me.
I might.
Exactly. My kids have told me, you know what, Dad? I don't want to get married. I don't want to have kids. I just want to have a dog, and I want to live with you and Mom.
You know
I
what?
said, hell yeah.
You know what? Ideally, if I was able to afford one day a compound with houses for me and my family,
So
I would do that.
under the same roof.
No, man, no, bro. Mom and Dad, or you guys need to go to your little side house right there.
I don't know. Maybe once my little girls get older, or because I just have girls.
Oh,
you
that's
have
fine,
boys
bro. You just
too,
have girls, man.
I've told my girls, yeah, when you join the I don't know what it's called in English, the convent where you become a nun. There's no boys there.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about boys.
Yeah.
It's just gonna be girls living there. You're gonna be a nun forever.
Yeah.
But it's I don't know. I don't want to let go of my girls, man.
No, and then that's hard as a parent. Like, I know we're jumping back to different things, but it's hard as a parent, man, to accept that they're gonna grow up, because they're gonna have their own life at that point. They're not gonna rely on you, because I'm pretty sure you're a lot like me, where you take pride in being a dad, and you take pride in them relying on you, and you love it, bro. Because I live for my family now. When I was younger, I didn't live for I lived for me, and I live for God and my family, bro. And it's, man, bro, it's not like I know it's like cheesy or whatever, but it's unlike anything else before you have kids. Like, you think that you really are living, right? When you're younger, you're like, yeah, I'm partying and I'm having a good time and I have all these friends and stuff. And man, when you have kids, bro, and you start like just loving them and adulting more, bro, they're just like, nothing else really matters that much, bro.
And I'm glad you bring that point up right now, that you said that you work for God and you work for your family. I've been a firm believer, and I'm 100% sure that this is thanks to my parents, that behind every successful man, or 99% of them, there's a backbone, right? There's that family and there's that wife, that spouse.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer in that, because that's what I saw my whole life. I'm blessed enough to say that my parents have been married for over 30 years and going. And unfortunately, not a lot of people have that.
Yeah.
Right? I believe you have that. I know I have that. And that's huge. And it's a sad part of life, right? It happens, and it is what it is. But going back to what I wanted to touch on is that you attribute a lot to your spouse, and there's got to be some percentage that now, as a 31-year-old DJ Rene, can say this is things.
You make me want to DJ again, bro.
This is what the podcast is for. Take the first step.
Oh, snap.
There's got to be some percentage that you say, you know what, I know this is God's work.
There's a lot of
Or
percentage.
your faith work, whatever your faith is. I know for us it's God, right? There's got to be some percentage.
There's a lot of percentage of that. I realize more and more as I get closer to God and being stronger in my faith, because I didn't have that for a lot of years. I mean, just this past year, I started growing into that more and more and more. There's a big percentage of it, man, because you're not doing it alone. And I don't want to get super deep into that, but you're not, bro. There's I'm gonna talk about what I believe in. I believe that God lays out things for you, and it's your job to take it and say, thank you, God, thank you for your grace, thank you for allowing me to do this. Or you can turn the other way and think that you're in control. And it's hard for us, man. The more you get into your faith, the more you're battling your old self. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
And that, well, I mean, that's where I've been, in the past couple of months, where I'm battling my old self, where I'm trying to say, oh no, I'm in control, but I'm not.
That's a good battle.
It is, until you realize it's the battle that's never going to end, and it's a good battle because you're always growing. Because going back to what you said, you were somewhere where you had a pretty cushy salary, and you were making good money, but that's not where God designed me to be, and it's not where I was happy. And so I went and said, I'm resigning. I'm going to start my own thing, because that's what makes me happy, and that's where I can serve more. Mm-hmm. And the key is that's where I can serve more, because I'm able to do the path that I believe God set for me with the skills that I believe God's granted me. Because I'm not good at a lot of things. Like I bought a guitar 2 years ago, and tell me if I can play a song right now. No, I don't have the patience. I don't have the patience for it. Right? Well, and you're good. You're good with music.
With everything.
Yeah. But I'm not good at a lot. I'm not good at everything. But I think I've understood what I'm good at and where I serve best. Mm-hmm. And I believe that where I'm at now is where I'm supposed to be, and where I can serve the best, at least in this point in time in my life. Yeah, I can serve better one day, and I'm growing on that, but I'm a lot happier and more fulfilled right now.
Yeah, and it takes us back to humbleness, if that's even a word, right?
Oh, it's a word.
Especially in the service industry, right? There's only two types of industries, right? You sell a product, or you provide a service.
Yep.
Correct. And the service, and probably even in both, but if you're not humble enough to be able to have your customer's best interest in mind, you're gonna fail.
Yeah.
You're gonna do it miserably. You're gonna crash and burn, right? And I don't know if you have. Probably not, because you have that personality to where you're a legit dude. Like, I want to help you. Yes, I'm gonna make money because I need to pay my bills, but I'm gonna help you.
Right.
But at one point or another, maybe your humbleness has kind of like shied away and then came back.
For sure. There's times where you battle ego. And I have, without knowing that I was being egotistical or whatever, and it's happened. Especially somebody who didn't come from money and then started making some good money. It's new to you, and you don't know how to treat it sometimes. Not that I've ever been a millionaire or anything like that, but I've made decent money in my life, especially somebody that doesn't have a college background or whatever. I think it's a battle we constantly fight, though. Not having ego.
I think that's a point that I want to make, like the reality of stuff. At one point you were, I don't know, making all kinds of money that you weren't too humble, but it was okay because you didn't stay there.
Right.
You moved on. And that's what a lot of people would not want to share. Yes, of course at one point I felt like I was king of the world. I was on top of the world because I was making so much money a month. Yeah, it's okay. Like, you're gonna fall. Like, you're gonna fall down. You just gotta come back up, and then have the mentality of, saying, "Hey, Rene, take it back down."
It goes back to checking yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you checking yourself on a daily basis? Because if you don't, you start drifting, and the ego gets involved, and you stop being humble, and you stop caring about people, and you start thinking that you're better than everybody. Because I've fallen into that, maybe not crazy extreme, where it's super obvious, but within myself, I reflect and I'm like, oh man, I probably wasn't the best person, or I wasn't the best husband, or I wasn't the best father, or I neglected maybe how somebody thought about this. Yeah, man, it's checking yourself, and it's checking your ego, man.
Mature enough to check yourself.
Yeah, but one of the things that we all have to realize, bro, is that we weren't created to be perfect, and it's okay to fall, but it's how you react when you fall. Like that Rocky scene, right? It's not how many times you get hit. It's how many times you get up after being hit, right? And it's probably a little different. I love Rocky movies, bro. I love the underdog, by the way. I love underdogs. I always feel like I've been an underdog my whole life, right?
Really?
So I relate to it a lot.
Really?
Yeah, that's how I see myself. And it pumps me up, though, because when I feel like that, bro, I'm my best, and I hustle harder, and I push harder, too. But I love the underdog story. So I usually cheer for the underdog in most cases. Like the Browns yesterday when they beat the Steelers. But
you're giving our date away.
Yeah.
This is pre-recorded.
Oh, pre-recorded. Yeah, you'll know. This is the first time in playoff history in 13 years. No, but going back to my point though, is you need to learn how to check yourself. And every time I say check myself, I want to wreck myself, right? But it's true, man.
That's your DJ coming out.
Yeah, but there's some true words in that, bro. It's just, can you check yourself, and can you realign yourself with what your core values and beliefs are, and who you are as a person? You're gonna always evolve as a person, so you're learning who you are more and more, right? But realign yourself is super important. Realigning yourself is super important, man. Super important.
Okay, let's get down to business, to the nitty gritty.
Okay.
Or to the meaty gritty. To the meat of
the
it.
nitty gritty.
The protein of it. Let's every meal needs a protein.
It does.
Every meal needs a protein.
Even if it's plant-based.
Protein is protein.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get down to how to start something. Okay, you've started a bunch of times, right? You had it good. That doesn't mean you can't start something new.
Right.
So where let's start by saying, where do you know that you need to start something else?
Like you're talking about starting over something else, or starting
something, period. Because it doesn't mean like Gary Vee says, right? You could be a lawyer making $200,000 a year. That doesn't mean that you can't start something else, and maybe you love it, maybe you don't, but the money's good, and you're like, you know what, I'll stay safe here. But how do you know when you should start pursuing something that's going on in your mind?
I think for most people that want to start business or entrepreneurs, a big part of the enjoyment is starting something new. And I think once you start feeling like you're getting complacent somewhere, it might be time to either adjust what you're doing in that business or whatever you're doing, or it might be time for you, because you've gotten so good in this aspect, or you've gotten a system established, it might be time for you to start something new, because you constantly want to be working on yourself and improving and doing more and doing better.
So you got to keep challenging yourself, basically.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. Keep challenging yourself, because at least for people like with my mindset, or the mindset of, I guess, an entrepreneur, is if you don't challenge yourself, you start feeling like you're stagnant, and then your momentum goes down, and your passion starts going down probably. So, excuse me, what's in this water?
It's not the water.
But I feel like that's probably where you want to start something else, because you've already established this.
Okay, so you've already mastered something?
Maybe not even mastered, bro. I don't know if you master anything per se, because you can always advance something. Like I own Home Guide Real Estate, a real estate company, and I'm in year 1, going on 2 already, and I haven't mastered it. But during year 1, I opened up a second company with a partner of mine for property management.
Which is?
What's the name?
Yep.
Panda Property Management.
Okay.
And so we started this other company, and it's exciting to me also, right? And it's fun.
But very important that you pursue or you start something that's going to be exciting to you, right? The journey has to be maybe even more important than the actual meeting the goal, right? And Gary Vee talks a lot about that. Like, make sure that the journey is something you're enjoying.
Yes, and that's truly how I feel about everything in life. Is I need to enjoy the journey, because you don't take anything with you when you die. You don't take the company with you. You don't take money with you, right? Like, you could throw in your grave, but you don't take it with you in the afterlife. It's the memories. Like, when you're on your deathbed, man, you don't think about money. You think about all the memories you had and the good stuff and the bad stuff. So for me, it really is the journey. I enjoy the journey. If I'm not enjoying the journey, I need to pivot or do something different, because maybe that's not what I enjoy at that time of my life, because I've already grown as a person. Okay. And maybe that's not for me anymore. Maybe it's time for me to move on.
So what could you tell me right now? I'm obviously venturing into the podcast world. What is your advice to me being a beginner, being a newbie, being a rookie?
I would say don't be afraid to make mistakes, and don't be afraid to take a direction that you think you would enjoy, and don't be afraid to fail, right? Mistakes. But more than anything, bro, do it a shitload. Like, do a million interviews. Consistency. Like, Gary Vee didn't make it right away. Grant Cardone didn't make it right away. One of the podcasts I really enjoy is Andy Frisella. I think he was on podcast for, I think it was 10 years before anybody really started listening to it.
Oh, don't tell me that.
Yeah, but it is. But however, if those 10 years you enjoyed it, then who cares if it was super successful in the beginning or not? Because you enjoyed it. So it is successful in a sense. Your perception may be, hey, I was successful because the reason why I did it was because I wanted to have fun. And for that, that's a success.
Right. And how much do you have to be prepared before you take that first step? Do you get to a point to where you say, you know what, I already looked into the legalities of renting for people, into the legalities of maybe the accounting side of it or whatever? How much do you need to get prepared before you really take that first step?
I would say know enough about the field to know what things you shouldn't do more than anything, because you don't want to put anybody in a situation where you're doing wrong by them. And you also don't want to put yourself in a position where you can get sued because you did something intentfully or negligently that was wrong by the law.
So what should push you more? Your passion for it or your knowledge of it?
Your passion for it should push you more. And then the second part of it would be the knowledge of it.
Okay. So your passion is got to trump.
It has
because
to.
you don't want to take a step in something you weren't passionate about to begin with.
It has to, because I opened a real estate company, and there's a lot of times where I'm here late by myself working when it's boring, man. It's not fun. Like, I don't like being behind the computer all day, but there's a lot of admin stuff that I have to do in order for it to be successful, the company to be successful, and the people in my squad, the people in the team, the agents here have to be successful. And so there's a lot of times where I'm not having fun all the time, but I know that ultimately this is what I want to do, and I enjoy it overall.
Therefore, you got to put in the work.
Therefore, you have to put in the work. It's behind the scenes stuff that nobody sees. Again, we go back to the Facebook thing, right? Everybody on Facebook's super happy, and everything's there's no problems in life.
You want to project.
And there's filters for everything. There's filters for your words. There's filters for your pictures. There's filters for everything. But the reality of it is that everything has their pros and cons, man. And you have to love something enough to be able to say, yeah, they're cons, but I learned from them. And okay. I don't see it as disappointments. I see it as learning lessons.
All right. And then let's talk about your strengths, right? Which is obviously the realtor side of it.
Right.
I'm buying my first home. What do I need to know?
Well, what you need to know first is, I'm going to do a little class here, but what you need to know first is, can you get a mortgage loan, or do you have the cash to buy it cash, the home?
Let's be realistic. We're not going to have the cash. And if you have the cash, this is not your first mortgage.
Yeah.
So let's kind of focus on the first-time home buyer. Maybe I just got married, or I was forced to move out of my parents' house because I started my family, right?
Right.
Well, how do I know it's time to purchase instead of just rent?
Well, I believe overall it's probably a good thing to purchase instead of rent, unless your credit's not there yet or your income's not there yet, or unless you're military and you're not going to stay here forever and you don't want to buy something permanent, right? So I think overall it's a good thing to purchase unless those factors come into play. So if you're in a position where your credit's decent or solid and you have income you can prove, that's a good time to buy. Especially right now, bro. The rates are still pretty low. We don't know when they're going up. They might go up this year. We don't know. But right now, the rates are good. That's what we know right now. And if the rates are good, your credit's good, you have income that you can prove, then I would say now is a good time to start looking into purchasing. But as a consumer, get educated on the process. Don't just dive into, like you talked about some of the stuff in the beginning of the podcast where you said, well, we looked into this one house and then, the experience wasn't good. We looked into another one, the experience wasn't good. You guys did your research and didn't just dive into the first home that you saw or the first person to talk to you. Do your research. Make sure that whoever's talking to you is educating you.
And then how important is it to pursue the home of your dreams versus pursuing the home of your budget?
Super important, because the home of your dreams, not that I want to say it may never be obtainable, but once you buy a home that's in your budget, it might be your home of your dreams at that point. But then later on, you reevaluate what you really want in a home, and then your home of your dreams turns into something different.
Because having gone through this process 3 times already, the bank will always try to give you one amount and then maybe extend it a little further, raise the bar, right? But how do I know that I shouldn't or should go for the most that I can get out of my credit?
So you want to look at what your budget really is and be realistic. If you know that your budget a month should be $1,200 a month, stay in that budget. Even if you're approved for more, let's say you're approved for up to, and I'm talking monthly payments, not your whole sales price, right? Okay. Let's say your monthly payment approval turns out to be like $1,600 a month, but you know that extra $400 a month puts you in a position where, you can't really go to the restaurants you like, or you can't really save enough to travel.
What's the average right now in El Paso?
Your average sales price right now in El Paso is about $180. Okay. That's your average, more or less, and it's increasing, so it might be $185. But stay in the budget that's comfortable for you. And if in the event you're like, well, my budget for me is $1,200, but every house you see that payment looks more or less like $1,200 isn't what you like, then don't rush into it. Maybe wait till you get a raise, or maybe till you pay down some more debt, where you can afford a more comfortable budget at a higher level.
Okay, and then let's say I already bought the house and I found a happy median between my budget and my dream home, right? How long should I stay there before looking to upgrade?
It depends on your market and the area you're at. Like for you, when I helped you sell your house, you guys had only been there like 2 years, 2.5 years? 3 years? Mm-hmm. Which is not super common in El Paso, where you could sell your house and not have to pay out of pocket to sell it.
Bro, that time we found an offer in 24 days. Where you found an offer in 24 days.
Which back then wasn't
Which is your record.
No, not anymore. Don't listen to him. But back then back then it wasn't super common to sell the house that fast at top market dollar, because we pushed the boundary on that house. Mm-hmm. We said, well, really market says X. I don't remember the number, but it says X. But let's try here, and let's see what we can do, because we're not in a rush to move. If we get this number and we found it in 24 days, that's beautiful, but that's not always the case. So when you are looking to sell, you want to know what the market looks like and what you can sell for versus what the costs that are associated with selling your home. Because when you buy a home, you're not paying commission. The seller pays commission, at least here in our market, right? But when you sell a home, you're paying commission. You might be paying closing costs for the buyer, so there's costs associated. So you want to get, again, educated on, before you even put the home on the market, hey, well, what does it look like if I sell my home? My balance is X. What can I sell it for? What are the fees associated?
Okay. All right. So let's say I sell my home after 3 years, which could probably be a good amount of time to at least come out even. 3 years, 5 years?
Normally in a normal market, pre-COVID, it's usually about 5 years. Okay. The market last year turned into kind of a frenzy with buyers because the interest rates are super low, and people weren't putting their house on the market as comfortably because they didn't want a lot of traffic inside and outside of their home. So there wasn't a whole bunch of inventory last year. This year might be different. It might be the same. We don't know yet. We're still very early in the year. So it depends on the market and what the market's doing But that's why it's important to talk to somebody that's the professional in that field, whether it's real estate or mortgage lending, to see what your options are.
Okay. Now let's look at the other side of the home buying process. What if I want to get into buying a investment property? When should I consider buying an investment property?
You should always consider buying an
Should I
investment
even
property.
consider buying an investment property?
You should always consider it, at least if you want to make some residual money, right? Or you want to make a flip. But again, it goes back to show me how this investment is going to give me a ROI, a return on investment.
And I should expect that info from my realtor?
From your realtor should be able to show you that. Because if not, you can just go on Zillow and buy a home. If you were knowledgeable about it, you can go on Zillow and buy a home and not need a realtor. Your realtor should provide that education to you. Because if not, then what's the point of having a realtor?
Right. Okay.
So if you want to, and there's two different investments also. I mean, at least two major different investments. There's a long-term investment, which is usually a rental. You buy a property, let's say you buy a property, your mortgage payment comes out to being $900 a month, right? Let's say you buy a little house, right? The one you want to rent out, and you're paying $900 a month. But really on the market to rent it out, you can get $1,200 a month on that property.
That's actually a thing?
It doesn't seem, yeah, it's a thing.
Oh, wow.
It doesn't seem like it's a lot of money a month, but someone's paying your mortgage and you're making a little bit of money on top of it. That's a long-term investment. It's pretty decent. The ROI is pretty good.
That OPM, other people's money.
Yeah, yeah. Or you could do a flip. So a lot of people want to do flips, right? Like everybody, I want to be a flipper, and you watch HGTV.
Yeah, because you watch cable
and it's super
TV.
easy, but it's not because.
And I hunt bees for a living.
Yes,
and she sells honey,
bro,
and our budget is $3
I
billion.
breed bees, yes, and she sells the honey. Yeah, and that's not real, right? And I tell my clients all the time, like, this is not HGTV. I know it's entertaining, it's fun, but it's not always like that. The expectation is a lot different in the real world, right? So if you're gonna do a flip, you need to make sure that whoever you're talking to, as far as a real estate agent, or if you're getting coached by another investor, what's my ARV?
Which stands for?
After repair value. Okay. For a flip, if you buy the house at $60,000, right? And the house you can sell for $320,000, right? Or $300,000, not $320,000. You put $260,000 in it because you need that much work, because that's what it needs to take to put that house into, at market condition, decent market condition. Well, you're at $320,000 at that point. So did you really buy a good buy? No, you're already under 20 G's, not even including the commission you're gonna pay, the closing costs, and maybe some repairs the buyer might ask for if you need repairs based off an inspection. So it's very important that you don't have to be savvy yourself, but make sure you're talking with somebody that either has done the flips and made profits, or an agent that understands that kind of market and investment.
Okay.
And don't just talk to one maybe agent, but maybe talk to a couple and have them show you the numbers. Show me what the market looks like if I fix it up. Show me the comparables. Because sometimes agents don't do the best of job, man. They want you to buy a home because they want to make a commission.
And this all happens before you run my credit.
Yes.
Which brings me to my next point. How important is my credit when it comes to buying a house, whether it's my first home, my second home, or an investment property?
Super important. That's like the first factor. You can have all the income in the world, but if you can't buy the house in cash, no one's going to want to finance you the money to buy the home.
Obviously. Okay. So step 1, find a good realtor.
Yes.
Step 2, find out where you're at, where your debt to income ratio might fall, and make sure that you know what the market is like.
Yep.
Now the step 2B, talking about an investment property, know what the market is like, and make sure that your realtor is knowledgeable enough to show you this is what it will cost to buy it, to fix it, and to sell it.
Yep.
Right? Now, why would I want to buy an investment property?
Well, because let's give another example. Let's say you buy a house at $60,000 and you could sell it for $300,000, and then you find out that your repairs are only $60,000. What does that put you at? 120, right? So you have 120, 300,000 of pretty much equity to sell the home. So you could profit. I'm not saying that comes by every day. I'm not.
And those numbers are just to give an example.
Yeah, I'm
probably
not
rare to have to find something like that.
Yeah, so I'm not trying to be unrealistic, but it could happen. But know what you're doing, because you could lose a lot of money in it, man. Even though you think the deal's gonna be good, make sure you're educated on it.
Okay, now after 8 or 9 years of you being in the market, give me a strategy how I could capitalize on investing in properties, because I'll buy my home where I'm living in, and then I'll buy a second investment home. Right. How do I take off from there to have this as a second source of income? After buying the first investment property, how could I turn that second investment property and maybe even the home you live in into a third property? Give me like a strategy. What
you can do, the easiest way probably would be, is if the first home and the second home you have enough equity where you can pull equity loans out of each of them. If you've established enough equity, in turn to maybe buy the third property with all that equity money that you pulled out.
But you only need enough equity for a down payment or for the whole home?
It depends what you want to do. Like, let's say you have your first home and you've been there for a while and your equity is 40 G's and you get qualified to pull out an equity loan, right? And then you have your second home and the equity, because you bought a good deal, is another 30 G's. That's how 70. Much? 70 G's, right? And then you find another home that's for 60, and maybe you need a few $1,000s to fix it up. And you might have already got the third home paid off, and then you have a whole residual coming in from there, and then you have your rent coming in from the second home. So you have two payments that are coming in that could help you potentially buy a fourth home. But again, you need to know what your budget looks like as well.
And the banks are willing to give you two separate equity loans at the same time?
Possibly. It depends what bank you talk to. It depends on your debt to income ratio.
So do I want to focus on my equity on my investment property or on my own home?
I would say probably your investment property is maybe.
So if I have any extra income, instead of maybe putting it aside in a savings, put it into the balance of the investment property?
Yeah, I would say if you get a payment from your renter and you pay another payment towards principal, you start killing your equity right away. And one could be just strictly for your PITI, which is principal, interest, tax, and insurance. Okay. And then you put another payment directly towards your principal. Because whenever you pay a monthly payment, normally it doesn't go straight to your principal.
No.
It gets spread out.
I've learned that.
It gets amortized, right? So if you have a renter paying the amortization of your loan, and then you pay your principal at the same time, you start killing your principal, which builds your equity.
Okay. But definitely, without questioning it, looking into investing in realty and investment properties is the way to go?
If you want it, yeah. If that's what you want. And that's
so right now, what would Rene want to invest on separately other than properties?
Commercial real estate.
But that goes back to real estate.
Yeah.
Me as a...
But that's how my mind's geared. Because some people could be like, I'm going to do Bitcoin. But what's happening recently to Bitcoin this week?
It dropped down like
it dropped. 5Gs. It's gone up. It's gone up in the past 2 weeks, 3 weeks, right?
We're in the 40s. We're back down to 35 today.
But it starts dropping.
Yeah.
Real estate, for the most part, is the most consistent investment you can make.
Okay. So if you had the money for it, you would still put it in properties?
Yes.
Okay. Fair enough. Because, well, I mean, maybe for you because that's your expertise.
Right, but look at all real investors and Mongols of money. If that's what you're looking for, you want to make money, right? Like him or not, what did Trump do to be successible? Real estate. It's real estate. It goes back to real estate.
Yeah.
Right? Look at Shaq. Shaquille O'Neal. He's actually more well off now because he invested in real estate and company franchises, which are also kind of real estate, right? You look at a lot of people that are very successful, they invested back into real estate. It's not a secret. Real estate's probably the key to where you should invest.
He invested into Anytime Fitness.
He did also, right? But that's also a piece of real estate.
Exactly.
It's a franchise, but it's also real estate.
I read a post, I don't know how true it is, but I read a post that McDonald's is not really making so much money out of burgers.
Nope.
It's their properties.
Yep.
Well, I mean, you can't buy a property from McDonald's. Don't get me the wrong way, right?
You can franchise.
But you can franchise, right? Okay, fair enough. Now, to kind of start closing this off, give me a couple of ideas or tips for my personal growth or my personal investing in myself and my knowledge and in my future?
Right. So a big part of it is having a morning routine, having a daily routine, but really starts in the morning because that starts your day, right? So find a routine that works for you, whether it's waking up early or waking up at 5, 6, 7, 8, but having you time where you go and you say, all right, phone on silent, turn it off. I'm going to center myself today. I'm going to go work out, or I'm going to meditate, or I'm going to pray. And then I'm going to take some time to build up endorphins in my body, because that's what causes the thought process, is the creativity. It gets the good energy flowing, right? Start with that. And then daily, keep yourself accountable and look at what you're doing daily. What are your habits? What are your routines? What are you doing daily to be better?
Okay, what habits do I need to get rid of?
This water, for one. No, but I mean, really, your habits are waste, really, man. If you're constantly just looking through social media all day, it's probably not the best thing for you. Because I've been there where I'm like, you get lost in the scroll, right? Mm-hmm. Or if the first thing you do when you get home is you watch TV and you don't do anything at home. I mean, it's stuff that's not helping you grow as a person. What I truly believe that weekly you should be reading some sort of self-help, self-motivation, the Bible, something that helps your mindset grow. Because a lot of people will work out, right? Mm-hmm. But then is your mindset growing? Yeah, you're building endorphins, but what are you feeding your mind? That's super important, bro. Your mind's almost a muscle in itself, right? Or if you're not building your mind, then you might go back to what I was talking about earlier, where you're drifting through life.
Okay.
Have a game plan, have a goal, and then have goals, short goals and long-term goals.
Okay. So
but stay consistent is the biggest thing.
All right, consistency. Now, how do I find my passion?
Man, that's a tough one. How do you find your passion?
Or let me rephrase that.
Yeah, I don't know if there's an answer for that.
You're not that good?
No, I'm not.
Teacher Rene doesn't have the answers to everything?
Not everything, man.
How do I look for my passion?
You just start by finding out what you enjoy, man. What do you truly enjoy doing, and monitor that within yourself. When are you happiest, right? Like your passion could be your family, and that could be, I'm going to be the best dad I can, which is a goal that we all strive for as dads, or we should strive for, right? But as far as that, you want to find what your passion is within yourself, because if you don't take time to make yourself happy, then your family can't be happy, and your work can't be happy, your faith can't be happy, right?
It's all a cycle.
It's all a cycle. So find what truly makes you enjoy things and makes you a better you. And I know it sounds kind of vague, but that's really how I can explain it, man. What brings out the endorphins in you that makes you enjoy life and do more of that? How can you contribute what you're good at to other people around you is part of it also.
Okay. And then how important is it to give back to a community?
Super important. We're built to contribute. We're built to be a tribe. We're built to be together. We're probably the only species, right, that is built to be part of a clan or a team or a tribe. So it's very important to give back the gifts you've been granted to other people that you can help.
Okay.
But you got to find what you're good at and then share that gift.
Okay. And last but not least, how do I find Rene? I'm
here like all the time. You can find me on social media, Rene Botello. Instagram, real Rene Botello. I'm not too big on Twitter, but you can find me, real Rene Botello, on Twitter. If you're ever in the area of Edgemere, or right next to the Idea School in Edgemere, I'm usually in the office. You can find me on my cell phone number, 915-356-0618. I mean, it's pretty easy to find me if you want to find me.
Okay, just Google me.
Yeah, Google me. You might not find some awesome stuff all the time, but you know, we all grow and we all learn.
And the bonus question before we go home: what is left of Rene? What's Rene's future looking like? What do you have planned? If you don't mind sharing, like what's in your agenda?
So I'll say what I think my agenda is, but it might change because it changes, and I don't control this most of the time. It's really my
Your wife.
It's really God and
okay.
my wife too. I want to build a legacy here in El Paso with this real estate company that my kids could take over if they want to and if they choose to. I want to be in Ruidoso and own cabins because I love Ruidoso. That's like that's my serenity. Beautiful. My family loves it. We love going out there. The reason why I don't say 100% this is what I'm going to do is because I never thought I'd own a real estate company, and I do. Never thought I'd own a property management company, and I do.
So you didn't see yourself here 5-10 years ago?
I didn't, but my mindset right now is I want to grow home guided real estate. I want to have an awesome property management company. Nova Custom Homes is a builder I represent. I want to help them grow and be a very successful builder. And then, you know what I want to do? Yes. I want to have investments that in Ruidoso, cabins, investments here in El Paso. And you know what I want to do when I'm older?
Yes, that's what I just asked you like 3 minutes ago.
I want to play golf.
What?
I recently got into golf. I want to play golf.
I thought you were going to say like Candy Crush or something.
Golf and investments and commercial real estate. That's where I see my not retirement, because I don't think I'll ever retire, but that's where I see my slowing down a little bit path is with my investments and then having a hobby of playing golf.
Okay. So, long story short, look into becoming an investor in realty.
Yeah, and you guys, if you guys have any questions about it, feel free to give me a call. You can reach Manny. He'll give you my info, or you can find it here. But call me. We'll sit down. We'll have an appointment. I'll get you educated on it, and then we'll see. We'll create a game plan to hopefully one day get you to where you want to go.
Okay, fair enough. Again, thanks for the time. Thanks for the water.
Well, thank you, man.
I don't know what
Cheers, bro.
What there was in the water, but thank you for it. I hope you guys take something from it. Feel free to reach out to myself or Rene, but please make sure you take that first step. Make sure that you're going for it. And more than anything, make sure that you're looking for that passion.
And don't ask permission, just do it. Just act. Start acting. It's not going to ever be the perfect path, but find a path and adjust.
And go for it.
And just go for it.
Go for it.
It's all adjustments.
Okay, adapt and overcome.
Yep.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Cheers, bro.
Cheers, man. Thank you.
Amigos, este es mi carnalote Carlos Rangel, quien es parte de este proyecto de una manera muy especial. Nuestra primera misión será ayudar a Carlos a encontrar algo muy importante que anda buscando, su acta de nacimiento. No se crean, Carlos sufre de falla renal crónica, lo cual significa que sus riñones ya no funcionan y por eso él está en diálisis diaria hasta que pueda encontrar un donador de riñón. Es por eso que les pedimos su ayuda para correr la voz con la esperanza de que muy pronto podamos cambiar o hasta salvar su vida. Si tú o alguien que conoces nos puede ayudar, por favor no dudes en contactar.